This is the ultimate guide how to run the newest macOS, Monterey or even Ventura on old unsupported Macs. So why is it called Ultimate Tutorial? Because it covers everything. First, I'm going to show you which Mac models are capable of running Monterey or maybe Ventura when it will be released. And I have brand new, very promising news about unsupported Macs on macOS Ventura at the end of the video. MacBook, MacBook Air, iMac, Mac Mini, Mac Pro, cover everything. Second, I show you the most easiest way for just installing a little bootloader and the update just pops up and you can update it like a regular officially supported Mac. Third, I give you a very short step-by-step instruction how to create a USB drive. You can just plug into any Mac, build it up from scratch with the macOS of your choice. And then we have a Q&A section with all the problems, all the questions that just came up here on my channel and where the community or I were able to help and to solve that problems. And at the end, I give you an outlook about Ventura, what might be the problems and which used Mac you maybe get on eBay or Craigslist might be a good bargain to buy right now and to run it with macOS Ventura. Let's jump right in. So first we have to answer the most important question, which Mac models are capable of running macOS 12 Monterey or maybe even Ventura. And the good news is that basically all Mac models starting around 2008, and yes, you heard it correctly, that is 14-year-old hardware, are capable of running macOS 12 Monterey. But be careful, you need at least 4 GB of RAM. If you have a 2 GB version, you have to stay with macOS 10.14 Mojave because that is the latest macOS that supports 2 GB of RAM. The oldest MacBook Air on which you can install macOS 12 Monterey is the MacBook Air 2.1 from late 2008 if you have a 4 GB RAM version. Same goes for the MacBook Air 3 and 4, which are from 2010 and 2011. The MacBook Air 5 and 6 from 2012 or 13 always have 4 GB of RAM, so no problem at all to install macOS Monterey. The first MacBook Pro though that you can install macOS Monterey is the MacBook Pro 6.1 from 2010. The versions before that do cause a lot of trouble if you try to install that new macOS. But any MacBook newer than this has no problem at all to run macOS Monterey with the OpenCore bootloader. The latest of the now discontinued MacBook that you can run macOS 12 Monterey on is the MacBook 6 from 2009. Then there was a gap of 5 years until Apple released the new series of MacBooks. That was 2015, which is now officially unsupported, but with OpenCore no problem to run macOS Monterey. For iMac, it starts with the iMac 8 from 2008, but you have to check your amount of RAM. Good news is that you can upgrade it very easily because there's just a little cap at the back of the iMac that you can unscrew and just put some more RAM in it. And that goes for every newer Mac up until 2015 that is officially unsupported. For the Mac Pro, the old aluminum cheese grater, you can use the Mac Pro 4 or 5 series from 2009 up until 2012 without any problems, but I recommend you upgrade the graphic card to a metal capable one. And for completion, Mac Mini, there it starts 2010 with the Mac Mini 4, but you have to have the 4 GB version and you cannot upgrade the RAM of the Mac Mini. Same for the Mac Mini 5 from 2011, and starting with the Mac Mini 6 from 2012, you always have 4 GB or more of RAM, so no problem at all. Chapter 2, how to easy update your macOS. And the only thing you have to do, and it's really just a few simple steps and you'll be done in 10 minutes, is to install a so-called bootloader, OpenCore. A bootloader is a program that boots before macOS starts and then starts macOS and just fakes a supported Mac. Just go to the website of the Dortania OpenCore Legacy Patcher and you find all links also down in the video description. And this is a handy little tool that just tailors the bootloader OpenCore to your specific Mac model. Just download the GUI version, that is the graphic user interface version, and after downloading just make a double click to extract the compressed download file and then make a double click to start the patcher. In the patcher now, just click the top button, build and install OpenCore. And afterwards it says, okay, where should I install OpenCore? And then you just choose your Mac hard disk, your boot hard disk. You can check the sizes if you have more than one hard disk in it. And afterwards it says like which partition. Just don't think about that. There's only this EFI partition. That is a part of the hard disk where the Mac looks for something to boot. It just been installed there and then you need to reboot. Make sure that when your Mac reboots, you keep the Option key or the Alt key pressed until you see the Apple bootloader. The Apple bootloader is something every Mac has where you can select which program to boot. If you have a Mac Pro with a PC graphics card though, you won't be able to see the Apple boot selector. So either you install an original Mac graphics card, then it works, or you just add an empty hard drive for SSD and a USB drive with the installer into the Mac, and then it should automatically choose the only boot option, which is EFI boot. You select EFI boot. That is the OpenCore, and you see the screen of OpenCore is nearly similar to that of the Apple bootloader, but here in the lower right corner, when you see there a release version and a release date, you can be sure that this is OpenCore. And now just select your macOS and let it boot. When macOS has started, you won't notice any difference. But if you click on the Apple and say about this Mac software update, then you will see that an update is waiting for you and you can install the update and update your officially unsupported Mac to the newest version. Chapter 3: How to create a USB drive with the macOS installer of your choice. The first steps are identically to chapter 2, so I would recommend you just scroll back and do the download part of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. All the links are down in the video description. And when you started the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, there is the third button from the top that says Create macOS Installer. And then you choose Download macOS Installer, and it just populates a list which macOS versions are officially available from the Apple service. Just choose the macOS of your choice. I choose 12.5, the latest Monterey. Then make sure that you inserted a USB drive, at least 16 GB, and all data will be lost. So make a backup first if there's anything important on that USB drive. And when the download has finished, the Legacy Patcher will search for a USB drive which is in appropriate size, and it will list all available devices here. Now the USB drive will be prepared as if the Apple tool would do it. It's just an official USB installer with the latest macOS. Nothing patched, nothing changed. And then comes the last step, where it installs the OpenCore bootloader onto that USB drive so that you can boot from that USB drive into OpenCore, which fakes a supported Mac, and then you start the installation as with any regular installer. Before you reboot though, make sure that you keep the Option or Alt key pressed to see the Apple boot selector. Same as before, if you have a Mac Pro with a PC graphic card, that won't work. You need a Mac card, okay? And then select EFI boot. That is OpenCore. Then OpenCore comes up and you select Install macOS Monterey. and the installer starts. Make sure that during every reboot, your Mac first boots EFI boot, which is open core, but that should automatically happen because it remembers the last boot option, and open core always boots macOS installer because that will continue the installation process. If you would choose install macOS Monterey, then it would start all over again and you would be at the very beginning of the installer again. If that option is not available anymore, then you can choose the name of your hard disk, like Macintosh HD or like SSD or whatever, and then macOS finishes its installation and is ready. After installation of macOS, obviously you have to install OpenCore to your hard disk. Otherwise, you would always need the USB drive inserted to boot your Mac. Start the legacy patcher again. Go to Build and Install OpenCore and now choose as a destination your boot hard disk. EFI partition, do a reboot without the USB drive obviously, keep the Option or Alt key pressed and select EFI boot now from your hard disk. Your Mac should remember that, always boot OpenCore now, and your Mac OS should work flawlessly. Fourth part, question and answers, and that is the most important part of that guide, because when you install a brand new macOS on old unsupported Mac hardware that wasn't designed for that, there might be some issues. I recommend that when you go here to the advanced settings that you disable the automatic update, because sometimes Apple changes something and then the OpenCore guys have to react to that, to maybe tweak some settings or get a new fix for something that pops up with a new version. For instance, version 12.5, Apple removed NVIDIA Kepler graphic drivers and all guys with an NVIDIA graphic chip couldn't log into their Macs anymore. Until now, the newest version of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 0410 had a fix for that. I would recommend you subscribe my channel and click the bell for notifications, and I will keep you updated if a new update version is safe for your Mac. If the update doesn't show up on your Mac, you maybe have to change a setting in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Start the Legacy Patcher again, go to Settings and go to SM BIOS. And then you have to change here at the top the SM BIOS spoof level. Maybe first change it to moderate, go back until to the main menu, and then you create and install OpenCore again to your boot disk. Do a restart, and now with the moderate spoof level, your Mac should find the updates. The first step you should do is to try the caps lock key. If that light switches on and off, then your Mac is still working, even though there's less than a minute for half an hour, or whatever. It is working and it's very busy trying to do things manually that a newer supported Mac would have maybe a special feature for, and it would have been done in a few minutes, okay? So be patient, let your Mac do its thing. Sometimes an installation can take up 3-4 hours. If the caps lock key is still working, your Mac is still working. If you would like to set any option in the OpenCore as standard boot option, just keep Control pressed during the selection. When you're finished with installation and you see the graphics is slow and you have no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, the first step is you start the Legacy Patcher again and you install the post-install root patch. Go to the post-install root patch and it will tell you if a patch is needed. And an advice from the community, install the patch, go back to the main menu and install it again without rebooting in between, then do the reboot. So maybe double is better than one installation, and after reboot you should be able to use your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi, and you should have graphics acceleration. If you have installed the post-install root patch, but you still cannot connect to your Wi-Fi, it shows your Wi-Fi, but it cannot connect, then this might be a problem due to the auto connect feature. The fix is just go to the tab Other in the Wi-Fi menu bar and then connect manually to your Wi-Fi network, and then it should remember that setting and should work. If you installed macOS on your Mac Pro with a legacy Mac graphics card to see the Apple boot selector, and then you swap your graphic card back to a new, maybe RX 580 metal capable graphics card, there is one little problem, because the legacy patcher has detected a non-metal legacy Mac graphics card and automatically installed drivers for that. If you swap now to the new graphics card, these old drivers may prevent graphic acceleration. Easy fix: go to the post-install root patch and revert the root patch. So just get rid of the old drivers that were falsely installed due to the legacy graphics card, do a reboot, and then you should have again graphic acceleration on your Mac Pro. If you have problems with USB 1.1 devices, such keyboard or mouse, then this might be because of the USB 1.1 controller against your USB 2.0 controller in your Mac. And macOS has to choose which controller it uses, because you cannot use both at the same time. The fix for that is easy. Just put a USB 2.0 or 3.0 hub in between those devices and your Mac. So one cable goes from your Mac to the hub, and then all other devices go into the hub. And that forces macOS to always use the USB 2.0 controller, and then those devices should work flawlessly. By default, OpenCore only shows you the important options to select. If you want to see all options in OpenCore, simply press spacebar in the OpenCore menu, and then, for instance, you will see the recovery option for your macOS. If your Mac hangs in between an update or during the different parts of the installation, first try, if you have waited enough, I told you that before, first try is to reset the NVRAM. Simply keep the Option or Alt key, the Command key, the R key and the P key pressed when you reboot your Mac, and wait until the chime comes. Then the NVRAM is resetted and it should work again. Simply keep the Option or the Alt key pressed, and in the Apple boot selector, don't choose EFI boot, just choose your macOS. But you need the NVRAM reset first, otherwise it may cause some problems. But obviously you can only boot a macOS that is still supported on that Mac. By default, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher leaves SIP, the System Integrity Protection, on, and that prevents users to brick the system and to change something in the kernel that the macOS wouldn't boot anymore. If you want to lower the SIP, just use these settings in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, Settings and SIP button here. If you want to switch it off completely, just mark every option here and then reinstall OpenCore on your hard disk, reboot, and SIP is switched off. If you get the error message, your Mac needs firmware update, then macOS has discovered that the old firmware doesn't have APFS support or full APFS support, and then you have to spoof a newer SM BIOS. That's technical stuff, but the SM BIOS tells macOS which Mac model you use. So simply go to the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, to Settings, then to SM BIOS Settings, and set the SM BIOS spoofing level to moderate. Then reinstall OpenCore, and then macOS should see that the firmware update isn't needed anymore. If you get the error message volume hash mismatch, that is not directly connected to OpenCore, because that is an error from macOS. Unfortunately, that means that something on your hard disk or SSD and the organization isn't correctly. So this error can happen also on a regular supported Mac with a regular Mac OS, and that unfortunately means you should wipe your hard disk completely and reinstall Mac OS from scratch. Fifth part, let's talk about macOS 13 Ventura, which will be released in fall, and there's one big difference to macOS 12 Monterey. With a decision to drop the Mac Pro 6.1 from 2013, that big black garbage can, Apple dropped support for pre-Haswell CPUs. So what does that mean? The Mac Pro from 2013 had a third generation Intel Core processor, which was codenamed Ivy Bridge. The processor after that got the codename Haswell, the fourth generation Core, and that introduced a feature that was called AVX2. AVX2 are special registers and special features that help process multimedia stuff much faster than the older processors could do that. And as Apple always does, when they stop support for old hardware, they also dropped graphic drivers. The 4th, 5th and 6th generation Intel Core had the Intel Iris or HD Video integrated graphic units. Apple dropped support and dropped the drivers out of macOS Ventura. And for all those guys who are saying, okay, I have an AMD graphics card, bad news, they also dropped drivers and support for Graphics Core Next Generation 1, 2 and 3. So that leaves you with the GCN 4 and 5 with these Radeon graphic cards here. Just yesterday we received great news from the developers of the OpenCore Legacy patcher, and especially here ChronoKernel. They have been able to restore the deleted graphic drivers. Intel Iris and HD Video, as well as GCN 1, 2 and 3 from AMD. I give you now a quick roundup through all Mac models. Which Mac models you shouldn't buy anymore because AVX2 is missing, and even if the developers can make it to create some kind of emulator, these CPUs are already so old and so slow that with an AVX2 emulation, whatever, I think they will be
very too slow
for using macOS Ventura in kind of useful way. So let's start with the MacBook Pro, and the big losers will be the MacBook Pro from 2012 and 13, that is MacBook Pro 9 and 10. These processors are Ivy Bridge, are pre-Haswell, don't have the AVX2 instruction set, so I don't think that Ventura will run in a okay speed on that MacBook Pro. All newer MacBook Pro, I see a good chance that we will be able to run Ventura, and that might be a good bargain to buy right now and to use it at least one more year with Ventura. The MacBook Pro from 2017 is the first and oldest one which is officially supported by Ventura. The MacBook Air 5 series from 2012 is Ivy Bridge processor, is pre-Haswell, has no AVX2, and I don't think this one will run Ventura. All newer MacBook Airs have a good chance to run Ventura, and the one from 2018-19 is the first one that is officially supported. The MacBook Series 6 and 7 from 2009 and 10 won't be able to run macOS Ventura, in my opinion. All new ones have a good chance, and the one from 2017 is the first one that is officially supported. The iMac 13 from 2012 and 13 is the big loser here in the iMac section, because this CPU will be too old for macOS Ventura. The newer ones though have a good chance because their hardware is new enough. The iMac 2017 and the iMac Pro from 2017 are the oldest iMacs that are officially supported by Apple for macOS 13 Ventura. The Mac Mini from 2012, that is Series 6, has the very old Ivy Bridge processor, so this one won't be able to run macOS 13 Ventura in an appropriate way. The one from 2014 is the first one I see good chances for Ventura, for updating it, and the one from 2018 is the first official supported version for macOS Ventura. For Mac Pro, and that is one of my devices, and I'm very sorry for that, the Mac Pros are the big losers of macOS 13 Ventura. Because the good old cheese grater, the Mac Pro 4.1 or 5.1 and the Mac Pro 6.1, that's the black garbage can, all have processors that are pre-Haswell. And I don't think that I can update my Mac Pro here to macOS 13 Ventura. The only Mac Pro that is also officially supported is obviously the Mac Pro 2019, which is the last one that still has an Intel CPU. So I hope this guide helps you maintain your old Mac a little bit longer than Apple intended you to. If there are any problems, questions, any trouble, give me a comment below and I try to answer as good as I can. And I have one question. Is there any interest for a live session here on YouTube where I go live, we have a chat about any problems or open items out of this video or other videos, to talk about Mac or unsupported Macs, macOS, maybe about flying, model flying, whatever here is on my channel. When there is interest, just give me a comment below. And if you haven't yet, I also would appreciate if you subscribe my channel and click the bell for notification, because now when new macOS versions will be released, and especially when Ventura will be released, there will be a lot of news and a lot of maybe hiccups or warnings that I can give you. For instance, don't upgrade to this and that version on this and that Mac because it causes a lot of trouble, and OpenCore has to fix that before you do the upgrade. Have a nice time here on my channel. I appreciate you all watching my videos here, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.